Well, just of all, in the journalistic aspect of University Times as a communications officer, I have 3 years of experience within student journalism college. I first started out because I've always wanted to be a journalist, and that's informed my college life to date. So I started out as a contributing writer for Trinity News. That was my first involvement. And then in my second year I was promoted to business editor of that newspaper, a position I still hold. And this year, along with 2 other best students, I founded the Bull, which is Ireland's only student-run financial newspaper. And within that, because we saw a gap in the market, because I was a business editor of Trinity News, I was getting like 1 page every 2 weeks to write about business and economics, and those are 2 fields that are massively important in discourse within college and the national scale. So we saw that there's a huge market, there's a huge depth of writing talent in that field which we can exploit. So we started that newspaper. Because of that, we have more and more people involved in student journalism. We have 40 or so writers now working with the Bull who never wrote before. So we have, through that, we have a massive writing pool. And that's something I can bring to University Times. I can bring in my experience within Trinity News and the Bull in terms of seeking out writers, seeking out the best people for the best roles in terms of which articles to write, and that can create a University Times that's more inclusive in terms of student contributing. And also, because of that, I've experienced in actually designing a newspaper, because I've acted as editor of the Bull on certain occasions, and that's given me, I've learned how to actually use the materials that you need to design a newspaper through InDesign. I'm working with printers and advertising, so that's something I can bring to the University Times, that experience there. And in terms of the actual political element of communications, I've always been heavily involved in politics. I canvassed for my local TD last year in the general elections, and I've read and written widely on certain issues which affect students on politics and on a national scale. And that's something I feel very strongly about, and it's what informs my manifesto, trying to get a more inclusive SU which caters more to the needs of students through student involvement within the SU. So my manifesto points, such as more town hall meetings, online forums, build on that.
So in terms of the communications role in an editorial capacity, I've been involved in college publications since I started, writing for TN and UT, as well as editing a couple of academic journals, and this year I founded the Trinity College Literary Review for much the same reasons that Owen founded the Bull. There was stuff that needed to be written, that people wanted to write, that people wanted to hear, that hadn't really been brought to public attention yet. I also spent this year as the opinions editor of the University Times, again with much the same benefit, understanding the UT production cycle, how it works, how the pages are laid out, how to best organize a production, how to organize a team of people to make sure things don't get covered twice, people don't get left out, this, that, and the other. More importantly, I think, as an opinions editor, I got access to a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't write for the University Times. Talking to people who had something interesting to say and didn't really know where to say it or how to say it or exactly how they wanted to get their message out. So talking to students from like Cumann na nGaedheal, talking to students in Trinity Labour, stuff like that, who felt like they had something to say on, particularly on student union issues that hadn't really been aired before. Which gave me some insight into what people think the student union is lacking. And I think going on then to the political role of the communications officer, people tend to feel a little bit divorced from the decision-making process of the student union. They feel a little bit disconnected from it, and that's something I'd like to address. I think it's best addressed by making the student union a more legitimate body, a more accessible body. That's best done by publishing the budget, by making it transparent, by making it accountable, by making it responsive, particularly too, by encouraging people to give their opinions and give their ideas and give their input in the knowledge that it will always be heard and it will always come up and it will always come to the attention of the right people. To that end, I have experience running national level advocacy campaigns, both for AIDS awareness groups and for a couple of charities back home in Canada, and I'm also a former GMB hack, so I like encouraging people to talk, I like encouraging people to argue. I think that is the best way to convince people to care about student union, and I think it's a great way to get more people involved.
Okay, well, I've basically been obsessed with every aspect of college life since I started, and I think that really leaves me perfectly placed to take on this dual role, because I've been on a couple of society committees and I've written for the University Times since it started 3 years ago, but really I've seen the promotion strategies that work, those that don't. I've seen what everyone's been at basically for years, and I think I understand how college works. I'm really interested in not only student activity, I'm very interested in that, but also you know, how decisions get made in college, you know, the shadowy stuff beside the scenes, what the provost and the executive officers are doing, for example. So that not only leaves me very well placed to generate news content and analyse what's going on in college, it also means I know how to interact between the Students' Union and college. So yeah, I just think I'm very well placed to take on this role because I have the journalistic experience, I know how to create content for the paper, and in terms of promoting interaction between the SU and the student body, I think I am well placed to figure out the best ways to do that and to make people actually get involved and to make people care about it.
One of my manifesto points to increase accountability in the SU is to publish every month SU progress reports, which will be contained in the SU student email, and they will basically detail what the SU have done in the past month, because there's a lot of positions in the SU which we don't really know about. There's the oversight committee and the international office, which students don't have much interaction with. We want to have progress reports on those different roles and see what they've done in the past month, how they're performing, and what their plans are for the next month. Because if students know exactly what their officers are doing, it most definitely increase accountability.
Particularly, I mean, James kind of hit the nail on the head when he referred to it as like the shadowy stuff. Like, it shouldn't be shadowy. It shouldn't be shadowy in any way, and if it takes, I mean, there's a certain feeling right now that it's sort of hacks who run the student union. It takes 4 years to understand the student union. If it takes 4 years to understand the student union, we're not doing our jobs properly. We really aren't. So I think UT is a fantastic tool. The website as well are fantastic tools for publishing genuinely critical, informed, engaged coverage of exactly what the student union is doing, both in college and outside in terms of their relations with the college administration, in terms of their relations with the government and USI and things like that. It's a fantastic tool to function as a sort of external audit.
You're elected to a position, you're elected by the students, so you have a mandate, a responsibility to implement the things in your manifesto. And one of my manifesto points, which say other kinds, is to increase transparency. And you cannot shirk from that responsibility as a communications officer. And also about this, I've pretty much no experience working with the SU, in terms of I've never been involved in SU committees or class reps, so I have very little personal relationship with them. So I have no problem in seeking out people who are underperforming and saying, I'm publishing this on the UT or in the website.
It is an inherently problematic aspect of the role. I have to acknowledge that. You know, that you do have this dual role, as you said. But I do think that the establishment of the editorial independence of the University Times, which happened with its inception, is one of the best things that's happened to student publishing in college. I mean, I've read all the old papers from years ago, and the record was great in some ways. But what you were talking about earlier, using the paper as a tool to talk about the plans for the SU, that's kind of what the record did, and I don't think it worked. Okay. I think that the main thing that the University Times has done is really built a strong precedent of investigative journalism. So, as Hannah said, using it as an external audit for the SU, yes, but it's actually becoming an external audit for the way college works itself, which is fantastic. So rather than going through these, you know, it's basically just adding more layers to say, well, to use this paper as a tool to say, this is how the SU is interacting with college. What we should really be doing is using the paper to analyse directly what college is doing. And that's what's starting to happen now, and it's fantastic, and that's what I want to keep going with.
But considering the SU is an integral part of college life and affects students the most, you can't shirk from reporting on the SU.
I'm not saying we shouldn't. It should be reported on.
Exactly, but if the SU, if they make decisions, they should be reported and they should be analysed within the UT. So that's why if you have an all-inclusive body of writers, we can get a much better opinion and we can formulate different diverging views on what the SU are doing and whatever happened in college life as well. So then, using that, you can better gauge what students want through more participation within the university.
And certainly in practical terms, if you want to talk about sort of divorcing the communications officer aspect from the University Times editor aspect, which is absolutely essential. They are two different roles that happen to be performed by the same person. Possibly the best way to do it is to look at University Times and look at how many ways you can get other people involved, how many ways you can get societies involved, how many ways you can get the broadest possible selection of writers involved. That's how you create a paper that is responsive. That's how you create create a paper that actually reflects the concerns of Trinity students as opposed to reflecting the concerns of the student union, which is just silly.